So here we are with a review of the Truthier X Critical Zero Red Edition using the virtual in-ear headphone listening test method, outlined by researchers at Harman International. Or in other words, EQing the magnitude response of the Moondrop variations to that of the Truthier X Critical Zero Red using minimum phase filters. Critical changed the title of the video, but he previously had it as the IEM that I took a year to perfect. So, is this IEM actually perfect? Without wasting your time, the answer simply is no. Even based on Critical's own 5128 measurements, if we compare the treble response between the variations and the Zero Red, we can see that the variations is significantly smoother, essentially measuring like a wire in the treble with virtually no resonances to be found, versus on the Zero we have a peak at 4 kHz, a dip at 10 kHz, a stabbing peak at 13 kHz, and then a dip followed by a peak, and then poor extension to 20 kHz. If we look at Giz Audio's measurement, we see that the bass is even below the Harman target, but the same trend appears in treble with too much energy at 4 to 5 kHz, a dip followed by a stabbing peak, followed by a dip, followed by a peak, followed by worse treble extension. And there's also this dip at around 2.5 kHz causing, vocals to sound too recessed. At least it doesn't have the 1.3 kHz peak that Variations does, so that's one good thing. But at the same time, the only reason the peak is not there is because 2.5 kHz is super recessed. Or not super recessed, but it is recessed on the Project Red. If we look at the version with the 10 ohm resistor, we can see that low bass increases, but mud also increases by a little bit. Based on the impedance measurement of the Red, the treble response should not have changed in Giz Audio's second measurement like he did, unless he reseated the earphone personally, or, just wanted to try and make it look better because he's Critical's editor at the end of the day. So I have an EQ for listening to both the Project Red and Project Red with the 10 ohm adapter. Let's start off by listening to it without the 10 ohm adapter. And you know what, we're listening to 10 to 1 by Real to start. Immediately, very plasticky in the treble, not enough bass impact. The peaking is so bad. And the funny thing to me about Audio Science Review, for example, is that it's essentially like a reverse head-fi effect where they completely ignore measurements past 8 kHz or something and think distortion matters by such a huge amount, even though second and third order harmonic distortion is easily masked by the fundamental and not likely to be audible at all. So, I don't know, it's weird. Anyway, continuing on with 10 to 1 by Real without the impedance adapter. Frequencies are audibly veiled. There's just a stabbing peak in the upper treble. I don't know, like the 4 to 6 kHz energy is too high. Yeah, it's just way too harsh in the upper treble. There's no other way to say it. It's just not sufficient treble quality. Okay, let's switch to the 10 ohm adapter. The treble issues are more easily masked because there is more bass in this case. I prefer it with the adapter than without. So the harshness really does come across at 25 seconds into the song. To be fair, very few earphones can actually handle this portion of the song. And yeah, this earphone definitely is not one of the few that can. Listening to it over again on the Variations, we have a dead smooth treble response. There's no resonances to be heard. We don't have any of this harshness that we have with the Truthier X Critical Zero Red, so it's definitely not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Let's listen to Spicy by aespa without the impedance adapter. Yeah, I'm just not feeling the bass impact without the impedance adapter. It's clearly lacking in bass compared to, what's realistic in terms of tactility. The plastickiness, the veiled treble, it's all very apparent in the song. It just does not sound that good. A lot of the people on places like Audio Science Review are in their 50s and 60s, and they can't even hear high frequencies very well, but I can still hear past 20 kHz, so I can better represent people with actual hearing ability than, what random people on ASR would say. Playing it again on Variations. It's so obvious, even vocals are more clear with the 2.5 kHz energy. It's just, the treble hole is not present on the Variations. We have better drivers in here, giving more clarity to the treble without all of these dips, riddling the response, ruining fidelity. I don't know, without the impedance adapter, there's just no bass to be found. I wouldn't say completely no bass, but it's just obviously lacking. Let's try it with the impedance adapter. Yeah, the bass impact is better at this point, but it also sounds too muddy with congestion appearing in vocals and other instruments. And the upper treble is still audibly veiled. Let's listen to Goodbye OK by T-Ara without the impedance adapter. Yeah, there's just no bass impact. I don't really hear the harshness here. I don't think it's primarily in those frequencies. I can hear the lack of resolution though. It's very apparent, even in the 2.5 kilohertz region that's missing, but also the upper treble. Like, I'm not getting the clarity that is actually in the song. Switching to the impedance adapter and redoing Goodbye OK by Tiara. Yeah, I definitely prefer the bass impact, no doubt. It's much, more dynamic sounding in the bass especially. So at 23 seconds in, you can actually hear sibilance on the Zero Red edition even with the impedance adapter. This isn't present on the variations, but there's obviously a peak present on the Zero Red. Yeah, it sounds super clear and natural on the variations in comparison. Let's listen to Mr. by Kara without the impedance adapter. It's audibly veiled and harsh in the treble without any bass impact. Like, it doesn't sound horrible, don't get me wrong, but it's just not as good as he's clearly claiming it is, or a lot of other people might say it is. Like, I can clearly hear imperfections in this earphone. The difference in treble accuracy is really apparent when you're switching directly from variations to the Zero Red edition, because with the absence of ringing to a response with ringing in the treble, high Q ringing that is, it is more noticeable than just starting off the song with high Q ringing present. And like, this earphone just cannot touch the variations in terms of treble quality. Like, the last bit of performance just is not there in the Truthier X Critical Zero Red edition. But I guess I'll listen to this again with the impedance adapter. Yeah, the treble veil and harshness is present if you are a critical listener. Variations is giving a much more accurate treble presentation. Like, oh my god, like, I don't know, maybe for $55 it's okay though, and I shouldn't complain too much, but yeah, this is just not cutting it. Listening to Tom's Diner by Giorgio Moroder and Britney Spears. The veil is noticeable. Yeah, I mean, the harshness and veil treble is noticeable in pretty much every song, but the veil treble is noticeable in essentially every song, but the harsh treble is noticeable in different degrees depending on the song. But I'll give one more song example. I'll choose a really high bandwidth torture testing song, Asymmetry by Real, starting off without the impedance adapter. Starting off, the bass is low, and at 9 seconds in, there's obvious peaking. Sibilance, 18 seconds in. Wow. Yeah, 20 seconds in, this earphone just loses its mind. It just, oh my god, I'm looking at the spectrogram of the song while it's playing, and it's extending so high, and the stabbing peak in the treble is just ridiculous in this song. Definitely not passable, even though in most songs I guess would be somewhat passable, but yeah, okay, without the impedance adapter, this earphone is not listenable in Asymmetry by Real, but this is a really good torture testing song. Like, very few, maybe like 1 in like 1 million headphones can actually play the song accurately. Let's try again with the impedance adapter. The harshness was less noticeable. Sibilance noticeable. Yeah, what really goes into it at 20 seconds in, this is just appalling performance, even with and without the impedance adapter. The treble resolution just is not there with this earphone. Not even just in terms of the dips, but it's also too peaky. It definitely needs at least one more driver to fix the treble issues. But, that will also drive up the price, I guess. Listening to the song one more time with the variations this time, we have better clarity. There was zero harshness whatsoever, and I felt like there was more distance to the soundstage because the treble was actually accurately played back. Yeah, I don't hear any harshness whatsoever with variations in comparison. Yeah, I mean, variations just wipes the floor with the Truthier X Critical Zero Red, and if you already have variations, there's no reason to buy the Truthier X Critical Zero Red. And I'm not gonna play dumb. I guess that if you can't afford the variations, the Truthier X Critical Zero Red is less trash than most trash among the trash that you are going to find in this price bracket. So take from that what you will, but I don't really recommend this earphone for anyone that is serious about high fidelity sound. I'd like to give a shout out to Yuli, Felix, Maldbo, Christopher Yu, The Artful Reaper, Trip, Minilos, Gabby D, Fofo, Noodle, Connor Ton, Zeroska, Ninja Koma 3, DMS Springus, Castle 4141, Vsauce4, Woody Acre, Snivery, Tripped once again, and Base Gamer. Thank you guys a lot for supporting the channel. I really appreciate it. Be sure to join the Apple House and Discord server if you haven't. I'll see you guys next time. I'm out.